everyone. I had spoken in the past about how dire the subject of voting, the fraud, the ballots, how this is going to be a savage election when it comes to ballots being stolen. And it's affected me. The stress of feeling that pressure has affected me. Definitely affected me last week. In fact, I wanted to talk about a Democratic operative who came out and said he's been committing voter fraud for decades. And he's warning, and I tried saying this in the video I made previously about trying to warn that they're going to be cheating every way possible, every way, any way, to win this election. And that's why he doesn't really try, with talking in front of the press, with his rallies. I mean, because their angle in winning this election is going to be cheating. So it's going to be tough come November 3rd because it's going to get so ugly, guys. I mean, it makes me nervous. Whatever the number is Trump has, and I've already said this, and some people have already said this, whatever the number is November 3rd, the Democrats are going to retrieve all those ballots they've stolen or reproduced, and they're going to just start sending them in. So this anonymous Democrat operative comes out and says he's been rigging. They're having him cheat the voting system with voting fraud for decades. And he says, quotes, "This is real, and there's going to be an effing war coming this November 3rd over this stuff." The operative, who spoke to the New York Post on the condition of being anonymous, he said, if they only knew how a sausage was made, or how this sausage was made, they could fix it. He added, according to the New York Post, that fraud is more the rule than the exception when it comes to mail-in voting. Fraud is more the rule than the exception when it comes to... Nope! Ooh, she's naughty. Naughty. She did that on purpose. She's naughty. She turned into a little Democrat on me. So, you know what, Tokyo Snow, you're naughty. She did that on purpose. So basically fraud is more the rule than the exception when it comes to mail-in voting. The whistleblower described himself as a Bernie Sanders supporter and said he chose to come forward for a couple months before the election in the hopes that election officials will beef up security. They got to do it. And, just like on the news, they've had these facilities with voting machines and things, and anybody can just walk in and take them. You have postmen with their trucks, and it's all set up. He's a Democrat. He makes a phone call. The little Antifa guy opens up the postman's truck, takes and puts ballots in his car. That was just on the internet today, and that was in Long Beach, California, guys. And there was a white car behind that car stealing. There was a white car just sitting there while the car in front was taking the buckets of ballots out of the post office truck. And that white car is involved. He was actually kind of sitting behind the black car to block the license plate. But I hope they track down that mailman. Those people got tipped off they were tipped off to open up that mail truck and steal those ballots. So the operative explained that the ballots themselves were easy to reproduce and feature no security features. He would put them in a copy machine and make you know, she's so naughty. Listen, stop it. You're not going to get no friskies. She's naughty. Little Democrat. You better not be turning into a little Democrat. She's naughty. So anyways, the operative explained that the ballots themselves are easy to reproduce and feature no security features. He would put them into a copy machine and make them his own. However, ow! Ow! Oh my God. Oh, listen, move now. You're being naughty. Go. Oh my God, she attacked me. Ow. You're naughty. She's real naughty. She's that's strong little muscle. She's strong. So, I guess she doesn't like me doing these videos or being on the phone because she was walking back and forth trying to knock over my camera. She's very smart. Hey, you better not be turning into a little Democrat. Naughty. So, she's like a little dog. She's like a dog. So, there's been times when she's been in the car with me and someone will walk up to my window and we're just sitting there not expecting anybody to come to our window, and she turn into a dog. She'll turn into a dog to attack him because she's protecting her mommy. All right, so let's get back to this. So he would say, this operative would go in and say that since these have no safety features, these ballots, they could just make duplicates with a copy machine. And the return envelopes are more secure than the ballot. So he procured them from legitimate voters by canvassing neighborhoods. So this is another thing, guys. These people are trained to canvass neighborhoods with other staff members, convincing voters to give them their completed ballots. So that's ballot harvesting right there. He would then take the legitimate ballots home, steam the envelopes open, and remove the ballot. Then he would put the fraudulent ballot inside the signed certificate and reseal the envelope before putting the ballots in several mailboxes as to draw less attention. Let me say that again. So, he would canvass the neighborhoods, convince the voters to give them their completed ballots. He'd then take the legitimate ballots home, steam the envelopes open, remove the real ballot. Then he would put the fraudulent ballot inside the signed certificate and reseal the envelope before putting the ballots into several mailboxes as to draw less attention. Nursing homes, he explained, are also fertile ground for fraud. There are nursing homes where the nurse is actually paid. The nurse is paid. She's a paid operative. And they go room by room by room, to these old people who still want to feel like they're relevant, said the whistleblower. They literally fill them out for them. They fill it out for them. He said some postal workers participate in voter suppression by throwing away ballots in heavily Republican areas. Others would use the mail as procurement tool for envelopes. You have a postman who is a rabbi, anti-Trump guy, and he's working in Bedminster, for example, or some Republican stronghold. He can take those filled out ballots, and knowing 95% are going to be Republican, going to Republican, he can just throw those into the garbage. And they've been doing all this, guys. Left and right. Left and right. Makes me sick talking about it. I kind of get the chills talking about it. It affects me. Some state governments have changed the vote by mail procedures in response to the coronavirus pandemic. California, for example, will mail ballots to all registered voters automatically, while other states allow absentee voting without an excuse. 75% of registered voters in the United States will be eligible to receive a ballot in the mail for the 2020 election, the most in the U.S. history, according, to the New York Times. We can't always trust the New York Times. We know that. President Trump has expressed his ardent opposition to universal mail-in voting, saying fraud is rampant. Guys, fraud is so rampant. I get affected reading this because our country's at stake. A study from the Heritage Foundation has also found over 1,200 proven instances of voter fraud. Universal mail-in voting is going to be a catastrophe. I don't know why they're calling it universal. It's unsolicited ballots, which means, and I've talked about this in a previous video, it means where they don't have an updated list. They don't have an updated list of people who live at addresses, people who have died, people who have moved. They just send them out like junk mail. Just blindly mail them out. So Trump, he said this is going to make our country a laughing stock of the world. The problem with mail-in voting, number one, is you're never going to know when the election's over. These Democrats, guys, are collecting. Right now, as we speak, they're paying people just like they're Antifa. They are paying people to do their criminality to win this election, to sabotage this election, to attack the citizens. The list goes on and on. Now, we're going to have problems come November 3rd. And supporters of an expanded mail-in ballot system, however, say fraud is rare. Those people who say it's rare are the people who are behind the large amounts of voter fraud. They're the ones paying. They're the ones committing voter fraud. They're the ones that want to hide it, like the mainstream media. And so the Brennan Center for Justice, a public policy institute associated with New York University, says that most allegations of fraud turn out to be baseless, and that most of the few remaining allegations reveal irregularities and other forms of election misconduct. Just like that anti-Trump rabbi, for example, that's just an example, who has access to loads of ballots and tosses them out, is the same type of person at the New York University Brennan Center for Justice that denies voter fraud exists. It's like saying pedophiles don't exist. Meanwhile, we got hundreds of thousands of children being abducted and kidnapped every year. Okay, guys, so I'm hoping that every person who's involved in this voting fraud scheme gets the tightest repercussions. And the problem we have with people getting jailed or facing repercussions during this time is that the very people who are paying these Antifas to do the mail voting fraud, aside from the violence, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay. Anyways, guys, let's keep our eyes open. If you have a postman, keep your eye on your postman. If you know your postman is anti-Trump, keep an eye on him when he's in your neighborhood. We should have private investigators following the people who are delivering mail. We need spies everywhere. And what I was going to say is, so the very people who are committing crimes against our country, from violence to voter fraud, these left radical mayor governors, these law officials have passed laws to where they won't get penalized. They'll just, without bail, get released. And then the district attorneys, when it comes down time for these people to go back to court, the district attorneys are just going to throw it out. So you see how that works? So they can just go right back on the street and continue doing the criminality for these left radical Democrats. It's sick. It's sick, guys. It's sick. Okay, guys. This piece was from Carly Ortiz Little with the Washington Examiner. This was on August 30th, 2020. This was posted or written. All right, guys. Let's fight for our country. Trump 2020, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys. Be good to each other.